Welcome to this week's video about our second week of our trip through France and Spain. Welcome to our second video, and in this video we're gonna visit the farm of my cousin and his girlfriend in France. In the northwest of France, in the region La Mayenne, and which is a very green region, very small scale farms.
Very hilly.
Yes, and it's close to the river La Mayenne. The farm is actually right next to that river as well.
Yeah.
So we spent there a whole week to experience farm life, and it was actually very inspirational for us.
Super nice. We learned a lot. We made concrete.
We made concrete
for the first time in my
did some
life.
construction works, cleaned out the newly planted trees. Yeah, we really got to experience the rhythm of farm life, waking up early, going to bed early as well because you're tired.
Getting dirty and cold and wet, but also it was very fulfilling.
Yeah, and it all flowed very naturally with the breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, and we got to enjoy being with the animals and being in nature, and we had like two reasons to go there. One was to help them because they have quite an old farm that needs to be renovated and made into a cheese makery, and the other reason was that we wanted to learn more about the animals and keeping such a big piece of land.
So it's 20 hectares, which is not that big for a professional farm, but for
us it's way too big.
For us it would be too big because we don't want to make cheese or do anything professional, but more be self-sufficient. So a few plots of grass and a few plots of wood, for example, so that you can keep some animals and that you can also grow enough wood that you can use for heating your house.
We're thinking like 5 to 10 hectares.
5 to 10 hectares would be sufficient.
Because we learned that one cow needs 1 hectare to eat year round.
Yeah.
Without getting hungry.
Yeah.
And like 1 hectare would be sufficient for 7 goats.
Yeah.
I don't want to get goats.
You can't wait for starting that now.
Wait. And we were so inspired, and they even organized our first viewing of a farm that's for sale by one of their friends, like an hour away.
Yeah, so we visited this farm that's for sale, and
but there will be more on our next video.
Yes, this week is only about our experiences on this farm and the farm life.
Farm life.
So enjoy watching. See you next time.
So let me introduce the farm to you. On the left side you see the kitchen where we ate all the meals during the day. Next to it is the cheese makery in making. Opposite the house. Then a big shed for the tools of Roland. In this corner a nice big vegetable garden, and then the pastures that holds all the animals and Dolly for the week. These two stinky butts are called Bert and Ernie, and they live right next door to the loudest sheep on earth, Bambi and Daisy. Responsible for the cheese on the farm are about 15 cows. They try to act all shy when you try to pet them, but when you actually have to do some work, they're too nosy and curious to leave you alone. And then of course there's Dolly, or Toulouse, the little feral kitten that Lucas caught in one of the sheds. Turns out he's not so shy and feral at all, actually quite sweet. So we made him a bit tamer, and now he gets to stay on the farm for life. To get an idea of what 20 hectares actually looks like, Vanish took us on a walk all around the farm. Most of it is pastures, but about 6 hectares is slopey woodland. Last year they cleared some of it out with a bulldozer, so a lot of new grass can grow, and the cows don't have any problems with the hills being a bit slopey. Now towards the back of the land, close to the river Mayenne, there are some really steep foresty hills, and Roland told us they have high archaeological value due to the Romans that used to rule the land here. I tried to find some shrines and stones that looked kind of Roman, but I didn't find any. By the way, I forgot to introduce one of the most important members of this farm. There he is. Is a big bulldozer of a white and orange cat, and his name is Ron Ron because of the sound he makes when you cuddle him. Ron 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 Ron. He's kind of like the king of the farm, and he makes it known. He also likes to follow us wherever we go. And he especially loved going into Dolly and climb up on the bed, so we wouldn't let him in anymore. Speaking of Dolly, this is what our mornings looked like. It was really cold, like 5 degrees outside, which meant it was about 5 degrees inside of Dolly. And what better way to warm up an old camper van than to make a hot pot of coffee? About each morning we took the bicycles and we cycled for 20 minutes to the next village. Pillage, the local boulangerie with croissant et pain au chocolat and fresh crackling warm bread, where we took it home to the farm and ate together in this lovely, almost medieval kitchen with Fanny and Roland. We didn't need any plates, just some sharp knives, some good cheese and warm coffee. The first task we got was actually making concrete, which I'd never done, and we learned how to make it. So we put 3 buckets of gravel into this mixer with 1.5 buckets of water and 4 buckets of fine sand. And you mix it together till it becomes nice and slushy. I think we made about 30 wheelbarrows. And the goal was to pour a new concrete floor for the tool shed of Roland. Every time Lucas brought them to the shed, and then Roland made a very nice level concrete floor out of them. Roland was the concrete master, making the floor himself. A very interesting fact that he told us was that a concrete floor never ever really dries. In the first few hours it dries about 70%, and then in the next days it dries to about 89%, and then it really never gets to 100. We thought this was a very valuable task since we will probably in the future need to pour a lot of our own concrete. When we weren't helping Roland and Fanny on the farm, we liked to take our bikes and drive all the way down to the river. This river follows the borders of Fanny's land. By the way, we consider these bikes to be one of our best purchases ever. I think I bought them for 50 euros. Second-hand, of course, and then I got them fixed up a little bit for another 50 euros. And we're so happy to have them because otherwise, if we want to go somewhere, we have to pack up Dolly, make the bed collapse above the cabin, and it's just too much hassle if you just want to go to the river for a little bit. We found this secret pathway through the forest that Roland told us about, and that's how we got really close to the river where it was shallow enough to maybe take a dip. It was freezing cold water, but actually we needed a shower. Now you guys probably know that we're big nudies, so we took our clothes off when no one was watching and we took a dip. So since the house of Fanny and Roland on the farm is not finished yet, we don't have a shower, just a dust toilet, and we kind of stank. So we washed all our important bits and pits, and actually with the sun it was quite nice. And after a freezing cold dip that freezes your tits and balls off, what's better than warm up in the warm French sun with some knitting and a good book. Most days it was hot enough to eat outside for lunch, so that's what we did almost every day. We made a stew from veggies from the own garden with some beans and bread, and what we didn't eat went to the piggies, Bert and Ernie, and they were delighted with this. These will grow up in about 8 months, and then unfortunately they'll be pork chop. We're not sure if we would ever be ready to raise a animal and have it slaughtered, but on the other hand, if you're a pig and you won't let me pet you, be warned. So it was time for the next task. These little sheep needed to go into another land next to it, and the pigs would go into the sheep land. So we had to make sure that the fences were right. Of course, first we had to take the electricity off, otherwise we'd be electrocuted. The trick was to get the bottom one low enough so the pigs won't escape, and the top one low enough so the sheep won't go between them, but neither jump then. Now, as you can see, I'm quite clumsy with fences in general, so I was happy to move on to the next task, which was clear all the brushes and grass around the trees that were planted a few months ago, and they would make a new tree line along the pastures of the cows. I think in the end we found about 70-75% of the trees, and the ones that we didn't find we put a little string along the fence so Funny knows where to plant new trees and try again. It was a really nice combination to do some hard work in the morning and the early afternoon, and then have the day off to make a hike to the river, for instance. Now, to make your YouTube experience even better, you can see we're trying to teach ourselves to film from different angles. Fanny also took us to the local farmers market where she'll be selling her cheese once they're done. We got some nice vegetables and crafted beer. And I think the highlight of our free time was going with Fanny to a folky festival. It was a whole night of folk dancing. Here you see me dancing with Fanny. I'm the giant between all the other people. And there were also a lot of group dances, but we didn't dare join because people were getting so excited and like screaming and yelling, and it was a bit too intense, but we loved watching it. And after a full week on the farm, we packed up all our stuff and Dolly, and we thanked Fanny and Roland 1,000 times over for the experience, and we headed down south. Actually, we were on our way here to our first farm viewing, but you'll hear more about that in our next video. Thank you for watching!